Did you know a Bavarian professor started a society in 1776 with just 5 members? And today it's blamed for almost everything that goes wrong in the world. Imagine an elite club at Yale University. Its members including US presidents and CIA directors, all meeting in a windowless building they call the tomb. Consider an ancient order of warrior monks who became so rich, lending money to kings, that one powerful monarch decided to wipe them out on a single infamous Friday the 13th. And for over 60 years, some of the planet's most influential politicians, business leaders, and academics have gathered annually behind closed doors, with armed guards ensuring their discussions remain totally secret. Number 7. The Bilderberg Group. Picture this. Once a year, for about 3 or 4 days, around 120 to 150 of the most influential people on Earth gather in a luxury hotel. We're talking prime ministers, finance ministers, CEOs of massive corporations, top bankers, media owners, and leading academics. They come from North America and Europe. This is the Bilderberg Group, and their meetings have been happening since 1954. The very first one was held at the Hotel de Bilderberg in Oosterbeek, Netherlands, which is how they got their name. So, what's the big deal? Well, for starters, these meetings are super private. Journalists are not allowed inside to report on what's being said. The locations change every year, and security is incredibly tight, often involving local police and even military personnel to keep outsiders away. The group says this secrecy is to allow for frank and open discussions where participants can speak their minds freely without worrying about how their words will be reported or twisted. They use something called the Chatham House Rule, which means participants can use the information they receive, but they cannot reveal who said what. The official aim of the Bilderberg Group is to promote dialogue between Europe and North America. It was started by figures like Polish political émigré Józef Ratzinger, who was concerned about growing anti-Americanism in Western Europe. He, along with Prince Bernhard of the Netherlands and others, thought that bringing leaders together from different fields could help foster better understanding and cooperation. Each year, a steering committee, itself composed of influential figures, decides who to invite and what topics will be discussed. Agendas are usually released covering broad topics like global economic issues, political challenges, technology, and international relations. Over the years, attendees have included names like Bill Clinton, Margaret Thatcher, Henry Kissinger, Bill Gates, the CEOs of companies like Google, Shell, and major banks. The guest list is a who's who of global power. Because of this intense secrecy and the high-powered guest list, many people have become suspicious. Some researchers and activists claim that the Bilderberg Group is not just a discussion forum, but a place where global policies are decided in private, away from public scrutiny or democratic processes. They point to instances where individuals attended Bilderberg meetings shortly before rising to prominent positions, like Bill Clinton attending in 1991 before becoming president, or Tony Blair attending before becoming Prime Minister of the UK. Critics argue that such gatherings of powerful people inevitably lead to consensus building and policy shaping that benefits the elite attendees and their interests, rather than the general public. They ask, if it's just a talking shop, why the intense secrecy? Why the armed guards? The group maintains that no binding resolutions are sought, no votes are taken, and no policy statements are issued. They say it's purely for discussion. Yet, the very nature of these off-the-record conversations among the world's power brokers continues to fuel theories about a shadowy group pulling strings behind the scenes of major global events, from economic policies to military interventions. The lack of transparency means the public can only guess at what really goes on when these powerful figures meet. Number 6. Skull and Bones. Deep within the ivy-covered walls of Yale University, one of America's oldest and most prestigious colleges, lies a windowless, brownstone building known simply as the Tomb. This is the headquarters of Skull and Bones, a secret society founded in 1832. Each year, only 15 senior students are tapped or selected for membership. These individuals are often leaders on campus, excelling in academics, sports, or other university activities. Once they become members, they are known as Bonesmen, or sometimes Knights of Eulogia. The society was co-founded by William Huntington Russell and Alphonso Taft. Russell had reportedly visited Germany and was inspired by occult societies there. Alphonso Taft, interestingly, was the father of William Howard Taft, who would go on to become both President of the United States and Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. And yes, he was a Bonesman too. The list of Bonesmen is quite remarkable. It includes at least 3 U.S. presidents: William Howard Taft, George H.W. Bush, and George W. Bush. John Kerry, former Secretary of State and presidential candidate, is also a member. In the 2004 presidential election, both major candidates, Bush and Kerry, were Bonesmen. When asked about their shared membership during interviews, both were notably reserved and unwilling to discuss details. What goes on inside the tomb is a closely guarded secret. Members are sworn to secrecy about the society's rituals and internal affairs. This secrecy has, naturally, led to a lot of speculation and rumors. It's said that new initiates must lie in a coffin and recount their personal and sexual histories to their fellow Bonesmen. There are tales of strange rituals, chanting, and the display of macabre artifacts. One of the most persistent rumors is that the society possesses the stolen skull of the Apache warrior Geronimo. This claim has even led to lawsuits from Geronimo's descendants demanding the return of his remains. Other rumored artifacts include the skulls of Pancho Villa and former U.S. President Martin Van Buren. The society is officially known as the Order of Death or the Brotherhood of Death, and its symbol is a skull with 2 crossed bones, often with the number 322 beneath it. The meaning of 322 is another mystery. Some say it refers to the year 322 BC, when the ancient Greek orator Demosthenes died, and that the society traces its origins to a Greek fraternity founded then. Others have different theories. The society is incorporated as the Russell Trust Association, which manages its assets, including the tomb in Deer Island, a private island retreat on the St. Lawrence River. The influence of Skull and Bones is often debated, with so many members going on to achieve positions of immense power in government, finance, media, and intelligence. The CIA was reportedly heavily populated by Bonesmen in its early days. Some argue that it functions as an old boys network, helping members climb the ladder of success and shaping American policy from within. They point to the strong bonds formed between members and the lifelong loyalty they are said to maintain. Critics see it as an elitist institution that perpetuates an unequal distribution of power, where a select few from a privileged background get a secret advantage. The society itself remains silent, its secrets locked away inside the tomb, allowing speculation about its true nature and influence to continue to thrive. Number 5. The Hashashin, Order of Assassins. Imagine a group of highly trained, fanatically devoted agents living in remote mountain fortresses who could strike fear into the hearts of kings and sultans across a vast region. This was the reality of the Nizari Ismailis, a Shia Muslim sect, more famously and perhaps misleadingly known in the West as the Order of Assassins, or Hashashin. They operated primarily in Persia, modern-day Iran, and Syria from the late 11th to the mid-13th centuries. Their founder was a Minoc and brilliant man named Hassan I Saba around 1090. Hassan I-Sabah seized control of Alamut Castle, a formidable fortress perched high in the Alborz Mountains of northern Iran. Alamut, meaning eagle's nest or eagle's teaching, became the headquarters of a Nizari Ismaili state. From this base, and others like it, Hassan created a sophisticated organization. He trained a special class of devotees known as Fida-e. These were not just mindless killers. They were often highly educated, skilled in disguise, and fluent in multiple languages. Their missions were not random acts of terror but carefully planned political assassinations, targeting key enemy figures, rulers, viziers, generals, and religious leaders who threatened the Nizaris. The Nizaris were a minority sect within Islam, often persecuted by the dominant Sunni Seljuk Empire. Assassination became their weapon of choice against more powerful enemies, a way to level the playing field and protect their community. Their tactics were designed for maximum psychological impact. Fida-e would often carry out their missions in public places, sometimes disguised for months or even years, getting close to their targets. They rarely tried to escape, expecting to be killed themselves, which further enhanced their fearsome reputation. They were seen as unafraid of death. The name assassin itself is shrouded in some controversy. It's believed to derive from the Arabic word Hashashin, meaning users of hashish. This label was popularized by their enemies and later by travelers like Marco Polo, who visited the region after the Nizari's power had waned. Polo told stories of Hassan I-Sabah, or his successors, creating a secret garden of paradise at Alamut, where young recruits were drugged with hashish and given a taste of heavenly delights. They were then told that only by obeying the master could they return to this paradise, making them fearless and loyal. However, many modern scholars doubt the accuracy of these hashish stories, suggesting they were propaganda spread by enemies to discredit the Nizaris. There is little contemporary Nizari evidence to support the widespread use of hashish for indoctrination. Instead, their devotion likely stemmed from strong religious conviction and loyalty to their leader, the Imam. The Nizaris successfully eliminated several high-profile figures, including the powerful Seljuk vizier Nizam al-Mulk and Conrad of Montferrat, the king of Jerusalem, during the Third Crusade. Their reach was extensive, and their reputation for stealth and lethality made them a feared power in the medieval Middle East. For nearly 2 centuries, they maintained their network of mountain strongholds. However, their end came with the Mongol invasions. In 1256, the Mongol forces of Hulagu Khan besieged Alamut. After a difficult siege, the fortress fell, and the Nizaris' power in Persia was largely destroyed. Their Syrian strongholds were eventually overcome by the Mamluk Sultan Baybars a few years later. Despite their physical destruction, the legend of the assassins, the shadowy killers from mountain fortresses, has persisted for centuries, inspiring countless stories, books, and even video games. Number 4. The Rosicrucians. In the early 17th century, a series of mysterious pamphlets began to circulate in Germany and soon across Europe, causing a huge stir. These documents announced the existence of a secret brotherhood of wise men, the Order of the Rosy Cross, or Rosicrucians. The first was the Fama Fraternitatis Rosae Crucis, Report of the Brotherhood of the Rosy Cross, published in 1614, followed by the Confessio Fraternitatis, Confession of the Brotherhood, in 1615, and the Chemical Wedding of Christian Rosenkreuz in 1616. These texts told the story of a German noble named Christian Rosenkreuz. According to the manifestos, Rosenkreuz was born in 1378. He was said to have traveled to the Middle East, studying with wise masters in places like Damascus, Egypt, and Fez, learning ancient secrets of alchemy, magic, and esoteric wisdom. Upon returning to Germany, He supposedly founded the Rosicrucian order with a few other like-minded individuals. Their goal was to bring about a universal reformation of mankind by sharing this secret knowledge, which included healing the sick for free and advancing science and art. The members were said to be sworn to secrecy, to meet annually, and to choose their own successors. Rosenkreuz himself was said to have died at the age of 106, his tomb discovered 120 years later, perfectly preserved, along with secret texts. These publications created immense excitement and debate. Many people wanted to join this secret order. Scholars, philosophers, and alchemists wrote letters and books, some supporting the Rosicrucians, others denouncing them as frauds or heretics. The curious thing was, no one seemed to be able to find any actual members of the original Rosicrucian Brotherhood described in the manifestos. This led many to believe that Christian Rosenkreuz and the original order might have been an allegory, a kind of intellectual game or a symbolic story created by a group of thinkers, possibly Lutherans, from Tübingen in Germany, to promote a particular vision of religious, scientific, and intellectual reform. The Chemical Wedding is often attributed to Johann Valentin André, a Lutheran theologian, who later seemed to imply it was a kind of satirical work. Whether the original order was real or a literary invention, the Rosicrucian idea took on a life of its own. Tapped into a deep interest in alchemy, the quest to turn base metals into gold and find an elixir of life, Hermeticism, an ancient spiritual philosophy, Kabbalah, Jewish mysticism, and Christian mysticism. The Rosicrucian Invisible College inspired many. Figures like René Descartes and Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz were intrigued, and some scholars believe Rosicrucian ideals influenced the development of early scientific societies, like the Royal Society in London. The idea of a secret, benevolent order working to improve humanity was very appealing. Over the centuries, various groups have emerged, claiming to be the true inheritors of the Rosicrucian tradition. These modern Rosicrucian organizations, such as AMORC, Ancient Mystical Order, Rosicrucis, and others, offer teachings on mysticism, metaphysics, and esoteric knowledge. They often have structured courses of study and rituals. The influence of Rosicrucianism is also seen in the symbolism and rituals of other esoteric groups, including some branches of Freemasonry. The original mystery remains. Was there ever a real Christian Rosenkreuz and his brotherhood quietly working behind the scenes? Or was it a powerful idea, a myth that inspired generations to seek hidden knowledge and work towards a better world? The manifestos themselves offered no easy answers, only an invitation to seek. Number 3. The Knights Templar. Imagine a band of warrior monks starting with just 9 knights who rose to become one of the wealthiest and most powerful organizations in the medieval world, only to be dramatically and brutally wiped out. This is the story of the poor fellow soldiers of Christ and of the Temple of Solomon, better known as the Knights Templar. The order was founded around 1119 by a French nobleman, Hugues de Payens, and 8 other knights. Their original purpose was noble: to protect Christian pilgrims traveling to the Holy Land. After the First Crusade had captured Jerusalem, King Baldwin II of Jerusalem gave them headquarters in a wing of the Al-Aqsa Mosque on the Temple Mount, believed to be the site of Solomon's Temple, hence their name. Initially, the Templars were poor, relying on donations. An early image associated with them depicted 2 knights sharing a single horse, symbolizing their poverty. But this didn't last long. In 1129, the influential churchman Bernard of Clairvaux endorsed the order, and at the Council of Troyes, they were given official papal sanction and a strict rule of conduct. They wore distinctive white mantles with a red cross. They were exempt from local laws, subject only to the Pope. This, combined with their military prowess and their role in the Crusades, made them very popular. Donations poured in, money, land, businesses from across Europe. The Templars became expert fighters, often the elite shock troops in Crusader armies. But their skills went beyond the battlefield. As they acquired vast wealth and land holdings throughout Europe and the Middle East, they developed a sophisticated early form of banking. Pilgrims heading to the Holy Land could deposit their money or valuables with a Templar preceptory, a local chapter house in their home country, and receive a letter of credit. They could then present this letter to Templars in the Holy Land and withdraw their funds. This was much safer than carrying large sums of money on dangerous journeys. Templars essentially created a vast financial network, lending money to kings, nobles, and even popes. They became incredibly wealthy and influential. However, their power and wealth eventually became their downfall. By the early 14th century, the Crusades were largely over with Christians having lost control of the Holy Land. Templars' primary military purpose was gone, yet they remained a powerful, wealthy, and largely autonomous organization within Europe. King Philip IV of France, known as Philip the Fair, was heavily in debt to the Templars. He was also keen to consolidate his own power and saw the Templars as a threat, or at least an opportunity. On Friday, October 13th, 1307, a date some believe is the origin of the unlucky Friday the 13th. Superstition. Philip ordered the arrest of all Templars in France. Templars were charged with numerous heresies, including denying Christ, spitting on the cross, idol worship, allegedly of a head called Baphomet, and engaging in homosexual practices. Many knights were brutally tortured by the Inquisition to extract confessions. While some did confess under duress, many others, including the Grand Master Jacques de Molay, later recanted their confessions. Pope Clement V, initially hesitant, came under pressure from King Philip and eventually dissolved the Templar order in 1312 at the Council of Vienne. Their assets were supposed to be transferred to another military order, the Knights Hospitaller, but Philip managed to seize a significant portion. In 1314, Jacques de Molay and Geoffrey de Charnay, another Templar leader, were burned at the stake in Paris. Legend has it that as he died, de Molay cursed King Philip and Pope Clement, both of whom died within a year. What happened to the Templars' legendary treasure? And did the order truly vanish? These questions have fueled centuries of speculation. Some believe the treasure was smuggled out of Paris before the arrests and hidden somewhere. Legends connect the Templars to the Holy Grail, the Ark of the Covenant, and even the Shroud of Turin. Theories abound that some Templars escaped, perhaps to Scotland, where Robert the Bruce was excommunicated and thus less likely to enforce papal orders, Portugal, where they were reconstituted as the Order of Christ, or Switzerland, contributing to the rise of Swiss banking or the Swiss Guard. Many later organizations, most notably some branches of Freemasonry, have incorporated Templar symbols and legends into their rituals, claiming a historical or spiritual lineage, though direct historical links are debated by scholars. Number 2. The Freemasons. When you hear the term secret society, Freemasonry is often one of the first names that comes to mind. With its mysterious symbols, like the square and compasses, its secret handshakes and rituals, its long list of famous members, it has fascinated and puzzled outsiders for centuries. So, what exactly are the Freemasons? Officially, they are one of the world's oldest and largest fraternal organizations. Their origins are a bit hazy, but they are generally thought to have evolved from the guilds of operative stonemasons who built the great cathedrals and castles of the Middle Ages. These medieval masons had secret signs and words to identify themselves, protect their trade secrets, and prove their skill level. By the 16th and 17th centuries, these guilds began to accept non-operative or speculative members, men who were not actual stonemasons but were interested in the ethical and philosophical teachings of the craft. This transition culminated in 1717, when 4 London lodges, local Masonic groups, came together to form the first Grand Lodge of England. This marked the formal beginning of modern Freemasonry as an organized institution. From England, Freemasonry spread rapidly across Europe, the American colonies, and the rest of the world. At its core, Freemasonry describes itself as a beautiful system of morality, veiled in allegory and illustrated by symbols. New members who must believe in a supreme being, though how they define that being is up to them, progress through a series of degrees, typically starting with entered apprentice, then fellow craft, and finally master mason. Each degree involves symbolic rituals and lectures designed to teach moral and ethical lessons, such as brotherly love, relief, charity, and truth. The tools of stonemasonry, the square compasses, level plumb rule, are used as symbols to impart these lessons. For example, the square might represent virtue, and the compasses the ability to circumscribe one's desires. Freemasonry is not a religion, and it expressly forbids religious and political discussions within the lodge. However, it encourages its members to be active in their own faiths and communities. Charity is a major focus, and Masonic organizations around the world donate substantial sums to various philanthropic causes, including hospitals, disaster relief, and educational scholarships. Famous Freemasons are numerous and include historical figures like George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, Winston Churchill, and many U.S. presidents and influential leaders in various fields. Despite its charitable work and emphasis on morality, Freemasonry has long been a target of suspicion and conspiracy theories. Its secrecy, private rituals, and oaths of loyalty have led some to accuse it of being a shadowy organization that manipulates politics, business, and even world events for its own benefit. Catholic Church has historically condemned Freemasonry, issuing several papal bulls against it, citing concerns about its perceived religious indifferentism, secrecy, and oaths. Totalitarian regimes. Both fascist and communist have also persecuted Freemasons, fearing their international connections and private nature. The Masons themselves maintain that their secrets are primarily modes of recognition, like handshakes and passwords, and the symbolic interpretations of their rituals, not sinister plots. They emphasize that they are a society with secrets, not a secret society in the sense of hiding their existence. Lodge buildings are often clearly marked, and many Masons are open about their membership. Yet, the allure of hidden knowledge and the image of powerful men meeting behind closed doors continue to fuel speculation. Are they simply a fraternity dedicated to self-improvement and charity, or is there more to their symbolism and influence than meets the public eye? The debate continues. Number 1. The Illuminati. Perhaps no secret society inspires more modern-day conspiracy theories than the Illuminati. The name itself conjures images of a hidden elite controlling world governments, financial markets, and even popular culture from behind the scenes, often working towards a new world order. But where did this idea come from? The original Illuminati was a real historical group, though far less grand and far more short-lived than its legend suggests. It was called the Bavarian Illuminati, founded on May 1st, 1776, by Adam Weishaupt, a professor of canon law at the University of Ingolstadt in Bavaria, now part of Germany. Weishaupt was a proponent of enlightenment, ideals, reason, secularism, and opposition to superstition and the perceived abuses of state and religious power, particularly the influence of the Jesuits. He wanted to create an organization that would secretly work to enlighten society, free people from prejudice, and promote a more rational and just world. His initial group, consisted of just 5 members. They adopted classical pseudonyms. Weishaupt was Spartacus, used ciphers for communication, and had a hierarchical structure with several degrees of initiation, starting with novice, then Minerval, and illuminated Minerval. Members were encouraged to recruit influential individuals, writers, politicians, doctors, lawyers, who could help spread their ideas. The Illuminati sought to infiltrate other organizations, including Masonic lodges, to find receptive minds and expand their influence. Weishaupt himself joined a Masonic lodge in Munich in 1777. The order grew, attracting several hundred members across Bavaria and other German states, including some notable figures like Baron von Nigge, who helped Weishaupt develop the higher degrees and rituals, modeling some of them on Masonic structures. However, internal disagreements, particularly between Weishaupt and Knigge, and the growing paranoia of the Bavarian authorities, soon led to problems. The Bavarian government, under Duke Karl Theodor, was deeply conservative and wary of secret societies that might challenge its authority or the established church. In 1784 and 1785, the Duke issued edicts banning all unauthorized secret societies, specifically naming the Illuminati. The government seized many of the order's documents and correspondence, which were then published, revealing their internal structure, goals, and membership lists. This exposure effectively crushed the Bavarian Illuminati. Weishaupt lost his university position and fled Bavaria, living out his life in exile. By the late 1780s, the original Illuminati had ceased to exist as a functioning organization. So, if they were disbanded so quickly, how did they become the stuff of global conspiracy legend? The myth of the Illuminati's enduring power began to grow shortly after their suppression. Conservative writers like Abbé Augustin Barreil in France and John Robison in Scotland published books in the late 1790s. They argued that the Illuminati had survived in secret and were the hidden hand behind the French Revolution. They painted a picture of a vast ongoing conspiracy dedicated to overthrowing monarchies, religions, and all social order. These ideas proved incredibly popular and persistent. Over the next 2 centuries, the Illuminati legend evolved, absorbing new elements and being invoked to explain various historical events and societal changes. In the 20th and 21st centuries, particularly with the rise of the internet, conspiracy theories involving the Illuminati have exploded. They are now often depicted as an ancient, all-powerful cabal that secretly controls everything from behind the scenes, with symbols like the all-seeing eye on the US dollar bill cited as disputed evidence of their influence. They are linked to virtually every other secret society, powerful family, and global institution. While historians generally agree that the original Bavarian Illuminati was a minor historical footnote, its name has become a potent symbol for a hidden, controlling elite, a fear or perhaps a fascination that seems to have a life of its own. The facts of its brief existence are often overshadowed by the vast and elaborate myths that have grown around it.